All right, number 12 in the series. I guess I'm going a little bit backwards again, too. I probably should have done this earlier, too. Maybe it's important to do it now. I don't know. It doesn't matter the order, I guess, as long as you learn something and I serve you somehow. So it's been said that I should talk about me. Blah, 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 blah. Me, 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 me. No, I should, so you know where I'm coming from, where I've come from. I've mentioned a few things already in this series. Briefly, me. You know, I was this countrified suburban kid outside of Buffalo, New York in the 60s. Was a loner, liked being alone, didn't mind being a good boy and studying. I was weird. Probably would have been an architect if I was a musician. I drew pictures of houses and, you know, house plans. That was my thing, being a drawer. I was a good artist. But I got pushed in music. My mom's a church organist, and I ended up taking piano lessons from her and getting a good foundation from the age of 5. She then later taught me the basics of music theory when I was about 10. And when I was 12 years old, I took up the guitar after I saw somebody play the electric guitar. I thought it was the coolest thing ever. My uncle lent me a guitar he had gotten when the Beatles came out. He didn't play it much. And I played that same guitar for 30 years and handed it back to him one day. I said, please take this before I sell it. It was a 1964 Fender Esquire, worth a whole bunch of money. So I gave it back to him so he can give it to his kids or pass it down. They'll probably sell it. They don't play either. Anyways, that's another story. But in my history, I studied like a madman. I was this loner kid and practiced a lot and got good at the violin, got good at the guitar, was one of the best kids in school all the time, did all the solo festivals, all that stuff, studied with Philharmonic people. I studied with a great jazz guitar teacher, Louis Pulowski in Buffalo, New York, who taught me all the chord substitutions, and I ate that stuff up, all how to improvise. Then at 16, I remember picking up a bass guitar for the first time. I was like, oh, this is so cool. I loved plucking with your fingers, those big thick strings. I was consumed by the bass guitar. I immediately went to the music store in our area that I was actually teaching at when I was 16 years old already, and said, give me all the bass books you got. And I bought myself a cheap bass. Well, actually, my mother bought it for me. Surprisingly, she was very thrifty, but agreed to pay $140 for this Fender Music Master bass, a little short scale thing. And I read through every Carol Kay book, every bass book I could find in that store when I was bored with that, because I could read the left-handed from the piano and knew all the theory from jazz or guitar already. I taught myself and read bassoon solos and trombone solos when I couldn't find more bass clef materials, you know, of the classical repertoire. And I became quite good pretty fast on the bass guitar. And when I hit, again, I'm not going to go on too long on this stuff, when I hit college, which I was going to University of Buffalo on a full scholarship for classical violin, which I found pretty quickly I had minor interest in my major, as one reviewer called it. That was a pretty slick line. Within 2 weeks of getting to college, I got in this kind of hot jazz fusion band in our town. It was all of a sudden playing like 5 nights a week in the same bars of famous people that had played, you know, and opening up for famous people. And had dressing rooms. At 18, I had, you know, in a band that had some dressing rooms once in a while. It's like talking about going on tour, and we were recording, and our tunes would be played on the local jazz stations and stuff. I was like, this is cool. I dove into that world head first. I still went to college for another 2.5 years, studying this classical thing, and I learned some things. I didn't say I didn't learn anything, but eventually, you know, the whole jazz and rock thing just consumed me, and I knew I just loved that and wanted to do that. And at one point, I had the epiphany moment of going, I can't see myself ever being happy playing the symphony. I'm out of here. And my parents took a little bit to understand why I gave up full scholarship. Actually made a little profit going to school. But I understood it, and I never looked back. So, and it just took me about 4 or 5, 6, 7, 8 more years to become a jazz violinist. So I apply all the things I was experiencing in the jazz world to the violin, which I did with some success. Anyways, so that's where I come from. That's the brief history of where me, and maybe you can measure up to you, what you're doing. Do you have to take the same path as me and be a kid that's practicing and playing music 8 hours a day? No. Can you play just for the fun of it? Can you learn jazz and be a better person and better player? Yes. And I'll help you any way I can. If you want to go into depth in this stuff, hit me up. All right. Fiddle Jam Institute. Whatever. Next video, here we come.